Welcome to Quick
Movie Reviews.
Welcome to Quick Movie Reviews. All right, here we go. Welcome to Burner Buttered, Quick Movie Reviews. I'm Toast.
And I'm Stetson. And this special episode, we have Ozzy with us. I'm going to explain how the show works. First, we pop things off with a quick spoiler-free synopsis of the movie and what we kind of expected going in.
Yeah, and then we get into Behind the Butter, which is where we talk about the filmmaking, the acting, all the juicy details. And we finish off with the final pop. The
final pop, where we're going to give our official verdict on if this thing was burnt or if it was buttered. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right, let's pop things off with The Count of Monte Cristo. This is the latest adaptation of the classic revenge story that we all know and love. It's directed by Matthieu Delaporte and Alexandre de la Patellière, and they've definitely gone all out with this one.
And I think you got their names exactly correct.
Oh, for sure. After watching one movie in French, I now am fluent.
I thought for sure we'll talk about this in Behind the Butter. There was a moment that I actually thought I started understanding French like English.
Yeah, like for a moment, if you look down, you had the gift of tongues.
So Pierre Denier plays Edmond Dantes, who is the person that gets betrayed, thrown into jail, and plots his revenge in that time. Finds treasure.
How else can you fund revenge without treasure?
You gotta be a very rich man to get revenge, unless you just want to kill people.
The richest man of all time, essentially.
And so the biggest question is this timeless story and this adaptation anything new, or
is it the same old Count of Monte Cristo that we've all grown to love because it's a great story?
Exactly. So let's get into it. Let's go to Behind the Butter, and we'll tell you all the juicy details. So let's get into Behind the Butter for The Count of Monte Cristo with a French accent.
Count of Monte Cristo. Cut it. Do not have that in there.
So kind of the whole reason why I even knew about this movie is I saw someone else's review about it, and they're like, this movie is throwing off my 2024 reviews. I don't know. This might have to be my top two, or like my top movie of the year, or my second one, my third one. Like, this one's throwing it all off. It's shot gorgeously. It's beautiful. The story's way different. All this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a movie we have to see.
Yeah, so Stetson sent that to me, and I watched the first two lines of it where he said, this is throwing off my entire year, The Count of Monte Cristo. And I said, okay, all I need to know. That's all I need to know. I just need to go watch The Count of Monte Cristo.
But the one thing this guy did not say in his review that I think is pretty necessary information is that the entire movie is in French. Like, I had to figure out myself, but the whole movie is in French. If you're not a native French speaker, you are reading this movie, which I wasn't turned off by. Like, ever since Dating Shelby, every single thing that we watch has subtitles on it.
Oh, that's been my thing since college, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
And I've gotten used to it. And so I've gotten used to like literally like reading almost everything that we watch at home. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't too nervous about it, or it didn't really turn me off to the idea of seeing it.
Yeah. I didn't think it was like distracting or anything. Again, I'm used to that. But also, a couple of years ago, Godzilla -1 was my top movie of the year, and that was all in Japanese. So, Same deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with this movie, there was moments. The opening scene of this movie is shot in the ocean. It's a storm. It's a shipwreck, and it is probably like one of the most beautiful shipwreck storm shots that I've seen in a very long time. it has like the camera angle of half water, half half in the water, half out of the water, and you're seeing the struggle of this woman, and you don't really have any context or anything of what's happening. You just see Edmund in the water, you see her in the water, and that's how the movie starts. And it started off in such a way that you're like, okay, this is probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, straight into the action. Like there's the credits and then you're right there, and he's swimming in the ocean and there's fire all over the place and the lighting's really cool. I felt like they used the ocean super well in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, and they talk about it frequently because, you know, he talks about the sea is all that I know. You know, like that's the only knowledge he has is about the ocean.
Yeah, him going into getting betrayed by his closest friends. Part of it is because he's kind of this no name, no education man that, you know, just by the virtue of being a good person and being honest to his word, becomes a captain. And that's all against like him, his upbringing of his dad being a servant in the castle. And so it was interesting that was what made him so special in his eyes. He's like, this is what makes me valuable.
Yeah.
Knowing the ocean, becoming a sailor, and being very, very good at it is what makes me valuable, and valuable enough that I can marry this person that I love with all my heart.
Yeah, and I feel like certain aspects of it, they didn't dive into the relationships as much as in previous iterations of the story. But the thing that I really liked was they really focused on that class struggle, you know, who's rich, who's powerful, who's not, you know, and the way that, at least in that period of time, people were treated according to their class levels.
And the idea of changing your station, you know, was really portrayed well in this movie, as it is in the other versions. But this one I thought was interesting in the way of, you know, his traitors or betrayers, I guess. It was all about maintaining class and raising your class or your station in life, and the reasons behind why they did what they did.
Which that's interesting because everybody in this movie was trying to increase their station, right? Even the people that you're looking up to, you know, the people who Edmond Dantes wants to reach their station.
Yeah.
They are also trying to advance their station. So it's like we're all doing the exact same thing, trying to advance our station while keeping everybody else at their same level so that we are then elevated.
Yeah, and it is an interesting take. I think that like the novel is crazy long, so the movie is obviously crazy long. I do think this one felt like it could have had a 20-minute shorter runtime, and I would have been a little bit more satisfied with the time I spent in the seat. Not that it wasn't beautiful, not that it wasn't shot really great, not that I wasn't interested. It just felt like I got enough from certain aspects of Edmund that I didn't need more. And we kept seeing more of the same things. And I felt like it kind of could have used less of that, in my opinion.
I actually found myself at the end of the movie thinking, I want more of this.
Really?
Like, I wanted more. I wanted to see what happened, you know, with Albert and Heidi. You know? Sure.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see like what happened with Mercedes afterwards. I don't know. I wanted more of it because I enjoyed the storytelling so much. And the thing that I liked about it was, in previous iterations, you know, they really do like a huge montage of him learning languages and him, you know, learning sword fighting and everything. And in this one, they left a lot of stuff out that I felt like you could just assume.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, and like to that respect, I would have enjoyed more of that, just less of certain other things. You know, like I think that we could have cut out like certain parts of the movie and we still would have had the want of more of the story. I did think like the prison was intense and like really crazily portrayed. You know, like the way that they're just in holes and like they're just checked on as if they're alive every day and that's it. Like they're just in a deep hole and the only way to get out is to climb out. And that was the most like real aspect of this would be a horrible existence.
Oh yeah.
And he's spending a couple of years in there, and then when the guy comes through the wall or whatnot and they have the moment of hugging, you're just like, of course you would feel that way of seeing another human being and having like a real interaction
First
with
time
somebody.
in 4 years.
Yeah. And then, you know, when they're kind of being realistic of how long it's going to take him to escape, and he's like, oh, it's going to take us 12 years of digging. And he's like, 12 years? And he's like, what? You got anything else to do?
Oh, you have something so much better to do than dig.
Yeah. But the treasure and everything else, there was aspects of this movie that reminded me and made me feel like they were just trying to have kind of a knockoff Assassin's Creed quest. You know, that I didn't love that aspect of it, that it felt fake in that way, where in the other Count of Monte Cristos, I've always felt like this could be real. You know, where that aspect of it and the level of revenge and plotting that had to take place of everything was so thought out was interesting, but I think unrealistic to me in some ways.
I felt like it was cool that they brought in new characters, or at least new to me, that I hadn't seen in previous iterations, to work along with him, you know, because that gave me surprises throughout the movie with a story that I felt like I was pretty familiar with. You know?
Sure.
The one thing that I didn't like was the masks. They just... it was hard for me to believe that back then, no matter how much money you had, that you could make a mask that would be good enough that people would not recognize it's a mask.
Yeah. And I think like the idea that he learned this skill from like some Illuminati-esque like group makes sense in the way of like nobody knows this but them, and that's how they like were able to, you know, obtain all this like power and wealth and like and other things. Like they were able to disguise themselves so well that no one would ever recognize him. And he learned like multiple different languages and things like that while he was in prison with this man. And I thought that was an interesting thing in the story too, where he's talking to the other captor. I can't remember his name. It's like Andes or something like that. Abbey.
Because he's a priest in Abbey.
Yeah. And so in that, like they're talking about starting to dig the tunnel, and he's like, knowledge is just as much of a wealth as a weapon. As a weapon,
as much of a weapon as they're like making little shivs or something, and he's like, knowledge is just as much of a weapon as these things are.
Or like a tool too, you know, weapon and tool. And I thought that was interesting and great, like to bring that in, because his revenge was about using not just his resources, but his knowledge and out thinking and out plotting like everyone that was involved. But overall, I mean, it was shot well.
Sure. I mean, there were some really beautiful shots. It's tough to go into that after Nosferatu, but I mean, there were some really beautiful shots, and you know, comparing it to other things that have just come out recently, one of the best shot movies that I saw.
It was the way that the story was told was really, really great, and the way that time moved in this movie was really great. And how time and the sequence of things happened was shot in a way that I haven't really seen a lot of. You know, and that was interesting to me for sure. But yeah, do you have anything else for behind the butter?
Let's see what else. I guess not really. No, just the mask thing threw me because I don't, yeah, never mind. I just didn't like the masks.
Let it be known, Toast didn't like the mask.
But everything else, I liked.
It was pretty good. So we're gonna go into our final pop. And in the final pop, we're gonna give you our official rating from burnt to buttered. It's a 1 to 5 scale. So we could give a rating of a 2.48 if we wanted to. We could do whatever we want on this scale, and then we'll explain our rating and if you should spend the time to go and watch this film.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you want to give your review?
Yeah. All right. So on a scale of 1 to 5, burnt to buttered, I am giving this a 4.5. And I thought it was shot really well. I thought the story was interesting. It kept me. This is a story. I mean, the Count of Monte Cristo with Jim Caviezel was one of my favorite movies growing up. So I watched that thing dozens of times. You know, I felt pretty familiar with the story, and this thing still kept me guessing and kept me engaged, kept me interested on what was coming next. So for me, 4.5.
What is it going to take for Toast to give a movie a 5? He liked this movie.
Nosferatu.
How dare you? But I can respect the review. I would give this, to me, I'm going to have to go with a 4.0. It is no more than a 4.0 for me. And I liked it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was shot really well. I just have to put it up against like movies that we've seen recently that I thought were better. As far as I left the movie being like, that was a great film. Mm-hmm. This was one of those that I was really satisfied with. Honestly, I would probably watch it again. You know, so any movie that's past like a 3 to me, I could see a second time. And so with it being in French, it was a little bit, I think that if it was obviously in English, I probably would have enjoyed it that much more.
But there was that one part. Stetson like looked down for a second, and the character started speaking English, and Stetson was like, I think I know French.
It was like in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, I just figured out French. And like, I'm understanding this just like English. It was a pretty funny moment for me in the film. But should you go and see this in theaters? I think it's worth a theater watch, but also I think you would enjoy this watching it at home too if you don't want to read the film like in the theaters the whole time.
Oh yeah, because you could
have like the dub version at home or something like that. And if you like dub stuff, you would really like the way that this was shot. And the way that this story was told. But yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I think that it's worth seeing it in the theaters if, like you said, you don't mind reading. You know, if that's something that's going to distract you, wait till it comes out and you can watch it in English. But yeah. Overall, sounds like we're in agreement. 4.25.
4.0. I must.
All right.
Sweet. Well, we will see you on the next review, and who knows, it could be
Nosferatu.
Okay, we'll see you on the next one.